In January 2024, the security situation in Europe rapidly escalated in tension. Almost simultaneously, the German Bundeswehr's secret document, Collective Defense 2025, was made public, revealing a dangerous path to potential military conflict between Europe and Russia. Both documents suggest that Europe may be facing a new, more complex and perilous security environment. These developments not only reveal the dynamics behind the tense situation, but also mark an important turning point in international relations. In this context, the latest developments on the Ukrainian battlefield, especially Ukraine's successful downing of a Russian early warning aircraft, seem particularly significant. Moreover, China's apparent support for Russia in the war further heightens international concerns, sparking calls for China to assume international responsibilities and face necessary sanctions. On January 14th, Bild, a German tabloid newspaper, leaked a world-shocking secret document, the Bundeswehr's Collective Defense 2025. It disclosed the path to conflict between Russia and Europe, predicting the harrowing details before the war. This reminds us of the secret report submitted by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation to the National Security Council 2 days earlier, detailing Russia's provocative actions in Europe, seemingly corroborating the Bundeswehr's report. According to the German secret document, Russia plans to conduct a massive conscription of 200,000 troops in February 2024 and aims to defeat Ukraine before June. Then in September, under the guise of protecting the Russian ethnic groups in the Baltic states, Russia plans to launch a large-scale military exercise, West 2024, in western Russia and Belarus, mobilizing up to 50,000 soldiers. By October, Russia will claim that NATO is about to launch an attack and deploy a large number of troops and medium-range missiles to the strategic location of Kaliningrad. By the end of the year, the Suwalki corridor is expected to witness manufactured border conflicts and widespread unrest. Russia will take advantage of the moment when the new US president is elected but not yet inaugurated, preparing to recreate the 2014 intervention in eastern Ukraine on NATO territory. By next January, the NATO Council will discuss how to respond to Russia's potential invasion of Poland and the Baltic states. In March, Russia may manipulate international public opinion to lay the groundwork for increasing troop deployment to the Baltic states and Belarus. Against this backdrop, NATO, not to be outdone, plans to deploy up to 300,000 troops to its eastern flank by May 2025, in preparation for possible conflict. Regarding this secret document that exposes the future, the spokesperson for the Bundeswehr's attitude is telling. Considering extreme scenarios in military planning is normal, implying that the war scenarios described in the document could truly happen in reality. For recent examples, on January 17th, due to Russia's electronic warfare systems in the Kaliningrad region, half of Poland and the Suwalki corridor lost GPS signals. Currently, tens of thousands of soldiers are being recruited by the German military. Sweden's Minister for Civil Defense has already announced to the nation to prepare for the end of 210 years of peace. The UK's Secretary of State for Defence declared in a policy speech in London that the era of peace dividends is over. No conflict is isolated, nor can any country afford to act alone, indicating that military forces worldwide understand what is happening behind the scenes. Poland is actively preparing for military conflict with Russia, significantly increasing its military budget to levels comparable with the UK, Germany, and France. It has fully mobilized 300,000 troops, with over 1,000 main battle tanks leading in Europe. Nitrochem is producing TNT explosives in 3 shifts, operating 24 hours a day. On January 15th, Poland's Deputy Foreign Minister stated an agreement to Germany's deployment of troops in Poland. Meanwhile, the UK announced it would send 20,000 troops to participate in NATO's large-scale military exercise, Steadfast Defender 24, on the eastern flank, including an aircraft carrier group, several F-35 squadrons, Marine Corps, and Army. This triennial exercise, not only celebrating NATO's 45th anniversary, is the largest since the Cold War. The UK's deployment includes 600,000 army personnel, 8 warships, and over 2,000 sailors. An aircraft carrier strike group will head to the North Atlantic, Norwegian Sea, and Baltic Sea areas with over 400 Marines participating in high-latitude landing exercises in the Arctic Circle. According to Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, this exercise, unlike previous ones, is unprecedented in scale, involving up to 40,000 Army personnel, over 50 warships, and many fighter squadrons. The main purpose of this exercise is to thoroughly test NATO's defense plans and ensure readiness against potential threats. Moreover, NATO's large-scale military exercise is routine every 3 years, but this year's scale and scope reflect the current international tension. Meanwhile, Bulgaria is constructing a military base capable of accommodating 5,000 NATO soldiers, seemingly in response to a potential threat from Serbia. These actions indicate the European continent might face a larger scale of military conflict. Putin is also laying important groundwork. He claimed that Russians were being expelled from the Baltic states, setting the stage for a narrative that could justify an invasion of the Baltic countries to protect the Russian people. Russia can't wait any longer, as the war economy orchestrated by China and Russia is unsustainable for their global war support. Unlike Western countries, Russia and China lack effective mechanisms for global resource acquisition, especially in the arms industry. Most Western arms companies, being publicly traded, can acquire resources globally, while Russia and China have yet to establish similar systems. Moreover, China's economy is in a dire state, verging on collapse. As a result, Russia might turn its military objectives towards the wealthier regions of Europe, seeking greater economic benefits and resource control. Meanwhile, Putin's firm declaration that Ukraine will suffer significant and irreversible damage if it continues to resist reveals his keen insight into the American political situation. He implies that under Trump's potential return, the US is unlikely to provide effective support to Ukraine. This prediction has shaped Russia's strategy to intensify military actions before the US elections to gain more leverage in future negotiations. This aligns with the Bundeswehr's document's revelation of a comprehensive offensive plan against Ukraine before summer. If Trump returns to power, the US might not fully support Ukraine. Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., said, quote, "The war between Russia and Ukraine must end through negotiation. To persuade the Zelensky-led Ukrainian government to negotiate, Washington must stop sending funds to Kyiv. The Ukrainians have never won and probably never will." This would force European countries to independently support Ukraine against Russia. Any battlefield advantage gained in a military conflict could become a powerful bargaining chip in subsequent negotiations. If Russia defeats Ukraine, NATO's eastern flank countries might be the next target, plunging the whole of NATO and Europe into a state of war, with frontline combat and rear area support. Therefore, European countries must start preparing now, regardless of the scenario. The Bundeswehr's secret document and the reactions of European countries show a deep understanding of the current situation and preparedness for potential threats. Europe's support for Ukraine is especially crucial before the US elections in November, to ensure Ukraine withstands Russia's potential comprehensive attack in May. Currently, US military aid to Ukraine is nearly exhausted, with funds for new weapons and ammunition depleted. Reports from Avdiivka and Marinka indicate that the lack of weapons assistance is already having an impact. Although the Ukrainian military is still fighting and Russia is suffering heavy casualties, the situation is severe. This forces European countries to independently support Ukraine against Russia. The UK's support for Ukraine in the second half of 2023 showed a positive attitude, including military deployments in western Ukraine, deploying Typhoon jets to Poland. They also attempted to provide patrol boats, although Turkey blocked these from entering the Black Sea. More importantly, the UK signed a security cooperation agreement with Ukraine, promising an additional $250 million in aid, though most of it will be used to purchase British-made drones. On January 16th, French President Macron announced in a press conference that he would visit Ukraine in February and would deliver to Ukraine 40 Shadow of the Storm cruise missiles, hundreds of bombs, and 78 Caesar self-propelled howitzer, among other weapons. France will begin supplying Ukraine with 50 AASM Hammer bombs per month throughout 2024. Russia currently has deployed about 600 troops on the Ukrainian battlefield, facing continuous high military expenses and mounting debts. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers are unable to return to battle due to injuries and deaths. 2,000 tanks and over 200 aircraft have been destroyed in the war. In terms of large-scale wars in the 21st century, this is an exceedingly poor performance. To address challenges on the Ukrainian front, Russia heavily relies on China's support, importing a large quantity of military and industrial equipment. This includes critical microchips, radio and jamming equipment, aircraft parts, and ammunition manufacturing equipment. From 2022 to 2023, exports of key industrial products to Russia, like ball bearings, increased by an astonishing 3,000%. Moreover, China has indirectly transported a large amount of material to Russia via Central Asia. During this period, China provided Russia with 10,000 bulldozers and excavators and 7,800 trucks. These heavy machines are primarily used to build formidable defense lines in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the supply of Chinese microchips to Russia increased by 1,000%, providing the Russian military with a vast array of auxiliary equipment, including radios, jamming devices, aircraft parts, fighter jet engine components, and ammunition manufacturing equipment. Additionally, China indirectly supports Russia by providing essential equipment to North Korea. Reports indicate that North Korea has increased its production by 25% and is operating a 24-hour shift system to meet production demands. These actions demonstrate China's explicit alignment with Russia and its intention to continue doing so. In terms of military equipment, Russia has significantly improved its military hardware with Chinese support, especially in drone technology. Battlefield analysis shows that Russian drones equipped with night vision optics significantly outperformed their Ukrainian counterparts. Despite Russian drones lacking quality and payload capacity, their mass production advantage makes them effective tools for destroying Ukrainian defenses. Ukraine's heavy equipment on the battlefield, particularly Leopard tanks, faces relentless attacks from Russia, forcing these tanks to withdraw from certain battle zones. This makes the Bradley fighting vehicle a major defensive force for Ukraine. This is the Ukrainian M2A2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicle, firing its 25mm Bushmaster chain gun at the Russian T-90M. Ukraine also faces serious challenges in maintenance and repairs. Particularly, Leopard tanks sent to Poland for repairs struggled due to a lack of necessary spare parts. German manufacturers haven't authorized Poland to produce these tank parts, further complicating repair efforts. When attempting to repair Leopard 2 tanks, Ukrainian repair personnel often struggle due to a lack of appropriate parts and expertise. Additionally, Ukraine has declined a batch of outdated Leopard 1 tanks due to technological and resource limitations. Despite significant difficulties in ground combat, the Ukrainian military achieved notable victories in the air. On January 14, 2024, Ukrainian forces successfully shot down a Russian Aerospace Forces A-50U early warning aircraft and an IL-22M command aircraft, marking the first instance of a successful downing of an enemy early warning aircraft globally. The downed A-50U is an upgraded version from the 21st century, but its communication and electronic warfare facilities are still lacking. Mostly serving as air traffic control and commonly regarded as an AEW aircraft rather than a fully functional AWACS. To perform complete early warning and command functions, the A-50U needs to operate in conjunction with the IL-20M electronic warfare aircraft and the IL-22M airborne command aircraft. Performance-wise, the A-50U is roughly equivalent to the late 1980s American E-2C Hawkeye, while the US Navy currently uses the more advanced E-2D. As such, Russia has begun developing the A-100, a more advanced, true early warning aircraft, SRDLO. During Putin's nearly 20-year rule, Russia deployed about 8 to 9 A-50Us and 1 A-100. As of 2022, about 16 A-50Us were still in use, with 9 to 11 being flight capable. However, since late 2022, only 3 have remained, quote, fully mission capable, with 2 operating in the Black Sea and Sea of Azov and the other deployed north of the war zone. The one shot down was operating over the Sea of Azov. The significant loss of Russian early warning aircraft is due to the frequent deployment of A-50Us along with IL-20s and IL-22s during the early stages of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, leading to frequent maintenance and crew fatigue. Moreover, maintenance of these early warning aircraft heavily relies on non-Russian IT technology, causing severe repair difficulties. Last June, an IL-22M was shot down by its mercenaries in a mutiny event in Wagner. Eventually, as of early this year, only 3 A-50Us remained fully mission capable. This image shows the A-50U early warning aircraft, quote, Board 50, serial number RF50601, which was successfully downed by the Ukrainian forces on January 14, 2024, in the northwestern Sea of Azov. This is the Russian Aerospace Forces VKS IL-22M airborne command aircraft. Its distinctive feature is the complex antenna field on top of the fuselage, necessary to support the various communication equipment installed on the aircraft. This is the IL-20M electronic intelligence gathering aircraft, which typically operates alongside the A-50U early warning aircraft. On January 14th, what exactly were these 2 Russian VKS aircraft doing? According to social media reports, the events unfolded as follows. The day before, on January 13th, the Ukrainian Air Force launched airstrikes on Russian ground radars and air defense systems in Crimea, destroying some Russian military ground radars. This led the Russian command to order the A-50U early warning aircraft and IL-22M command aircraft to move closer to the front lines. Due to the limited radar detection range of the A-50U, it could not detect Ukrainian aircraft and missiles from a safe distance. Therefore, it had to fly at a position of only 80 to 90 kilometers from the front line, typically escorted by Su-30SM interceptors. Generally, the Russian military considered this to be safe unless threatened by long-range Ukrainian ground-to-air systems. On January 14th, Ukrainian Su-24 bombers again used Storm Shadow cruise missiles and HARM anti-radiation missiles to strike ground-based early warning radars in Crimea, causing paralysis. The Russian military ordered the A-50U early warning aircraft to move its operational airspace forward, extending its radar coverage to Crimea and Zaporizhia, bringing the A-50U closer to the front lines. The Su-34 crew reported detecting a Ukrainian S-300 radar signal, previously undiscovered by the Russians in this area. Minutes later, the A-50U and IL-22 became targets of ground-to-air missiles. The A-50U was hit and crashed, with all 12 crew members on board perishing. The IL-22M11 radar jamming aircraft near Kirillovka suffered severe damage, with the rear of the fuselage riddled with bullet holes. 2 crew members died and another 2 were injured, 1 critically. Despite severe damage, the crew managed to fly the aircraft across the Kerch Bridge, landing safely at Anapa airport. The IL-22M11 is a 4-engine turboprop aircraft, similar to the US C-130. The successful downing of the Russian early warning aircraft, according to experts, was an ambush by the Ukrainian Air Force. The Ukrainian Air Force secretly moved Patriot PAC-2 systems forward, integrating them with existing S-300 air defense systems. The Patriot's AN-MPQ-53 phased array radar remained off and in silent mode. Ukraine's S-300 radar systems first detected the Russian early warning aircraft and relayed its coordinates to the PAC-23 SAM systems. The PAC-23 systems, using their advanced radar, required only a few seconds to turn on, acquire, and log onto the target data before launching the interceptor missile. For the Russians, this response time was too short to effectively detect and assess the launch of the Patriot missile. After launching the missile, the Ukrainians quickly evacuated the launch area to avoid potential Russian retaliation. Meanwhile, at a distance of about 90 to 120 kilometers from the launch site, the Patriot missile successfully downed the A-50U and caused severe damage to the IL-22M. As usual, the A-50 was shot down by a Patriot launcher donated by Germany. German Air Force equipment is destroying much of the Russian Air Force's capability. The Kremlin adamantly denied that the aircraft, valued at $330 million was shot down by the Ukrainian military, instead claiming that it was accidentally hit by its air defense system due to inaccurate and unreliable ballistic missiles provided by North Korea. This absurd statement seems to give Russian pilots a false sense of security, implying that flying over the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov is safe. However, by January 18th, another A-50U was flying 50 miles further away from Ukraine than the aircraft on January 14th. This blatant distortion of facts is reminiscent of similar strategies by the Chinese Communist Party, willing to twist facts to maintain an image, sharing similar tactics in information control and propaganda, and further exposing their dishonest behavior in international relations.